Thanks for everybody. It's great to see all of you. I know many of you. Hello to those that I don't, and also the 2017 class, of course, which is pretty amazing. So that's great. When I reached out to Marianne and the others at the Leadership Center to talk about whether or not it would make sense for me to share some of this, and the reason why I did was because I've been doing a couple of these a week, actually. There just seems to be a lot of interest right now in the way people and companies are communicating during these very interesting times. And it's really uncharted waters. You know, we're building the plane while we're flying it, basically. And some companies, people, etc., are doing a better job than others. And I think you all have probably noticed that on your own, but I started collecting some of these things, some of these best practices. I started writing a lot of content about it. And then people would read what I wrote and then ask me to join their big Zoom meetings as a guest to talk about it. So I've been doing this, and every couple days I either write some new content or I add a new slide or two. And I've done that this time too, because some new things have happened since the last time I did this. If we can kind of get through this, what I've found is I might actually just sort of unshare after I get through it, and then we can just talk. And what I've found is that some of the dialogue between folks on these calls, some of the Q&A, but also just some of the comments from some other people, like what are people seeing or hearing, or do they have examples, or what are people trying that's working? There's a lot of learning from each other, and I think that is what I know I get out of these, and what I've heard others get out of it too. So good. So this is basically about customer outreach strategies. So you'll see some of the things. I don't really have an agenda. I'm just going to kind of talk through this. It starts with a story about Airstream trailers. You've probably seen them on the road. I don't know if anybody has experience with these. I don't own one, but somewhere along the line, they enticed me to sign up for an email, or they started sending me social media or what have you. And I noticed during this crisis that I was getting some really good direct emails from them. And this was amidst lots and lots of really bad emails from folks. So, I mean, I know that you probably have gotten a lot of emails as well. But these I got, and they were just fantastic. And I was trying to compare what I got with some of the ones that were sort of okay, or some of the ones that I got that were, you know, not good at all. How did they fall flat, or what made these so good? And I came up with almost a formula, more or less, of what some of these communications should try to include during this time. And here it is. I wrote an article about this. So, by the way, I'll be making this presentation available to anybody after this. And there are links in the in this presentation to most of the things that I'm referring to. So my my article is about shoot from the hips, and usually shoot from the hips is something that's sort of not planned, or you know, you try and do very quick without thinking about it. But in this case, it's really actually just the opposite. It's actually thinking about it and actually using it as this is an acronym that's, you know, that you can remember. And there's 4 elements. One is that honesty is really, really important here, because you've seen all sorts of things in the last 8, 10, 12 weeks that have skirted around issues, tried to put spin on things, but the best in any crisis communications, but really in any situation like this, honesty is the best policy, and just being straight and straightforward can be really, really effective. Is it informative? So we're trying to help people now. We want to give information that people can use. And I'm just going to go back to the Airstream example. This email that I got had all these elements, these two so far, and the others. But you can think about, am I including this? Am I helping people? Am I providing useful information in my communication? The next is personal, and this is really interesting times because we're all on this Zoom together, looking at each other, and we're actually being kept from seeing each other in person. So we're sort of craving personal contact. But aside from that, even in just like, say, email, or on a website or what have you, a lot of times our fallback has been to write things in the sort of generic terms, not the first person, maybe passive, etc. But if there's ever a time for us to be able to like literally speak to the person we're talking to, and maybe show a photo of whoever it is that's writing it, and to like make an actual personal outreach, we sort of have permission to do that right now, which is really extraordinary. And I think we should take advantage of that. It makes a difference, and people can connect with other people right now. And if you feel like you're being connected with by a corporation or an entity or something impersonal, it feels strange right now. The last is supportive. And by supportive, it's different than informative. It's, hey, I'm putting myself in your shoes and I'm thinking, what else could I use? Whether it's something from our company or something else. It's like, how can we help you? How can we continue to support you, thinking about what you might need right now? So those are the four elements: honest, information, informative, personal, and supportive. Now a big support. I realized this after putting this example in here, that Westfield is also a big supporter of the Leadership Center, but that's not why I'm calling them out. I mean, all you have to do is visit their website and look at the messages from the CEO, look at the videos, look at the tenor of what they're doing, and you will see like this HIPS practice in motion. The other thing you'll see is a pop-up on the screen as soon as you go to that website that says that for anybody that's one of their automobile insurance customers, they're actually just going to automatically take 15% off of the premium because they know you're driving less. Well, obviously they don't have to do that. In fact, just the opposite. A lot of companies are saying, wow, we're getting these great premiums, and on top of that, we're not having to pay anything out these days because nobody's getting into accidents. And if you read the details, if you click that learn more, it's just great copywriting. It's great messaging because they're just saying, you don't have to do anything here. This is going to happen automatically. Don't worry about it. And you just feel better. Now, I believe that for everything right now, one of the things that we see is that we're prioritizing, right? I don't know if any of you subscribe to it, but if you don't, there's an email from someone named James Clear, and he wrote something called Atomic Habits. But every Thursday, he sends this email that only takes a couple minutes to read. I mean, I'm not really, maybe a minute. And it's called the 321 Thursday email. And last week, he sent this, and it really stood out. This was the number 2 out of the 3. He gives sort of 3 things, in order. So number 2, which actually is multi-part, so it's sort of cheating because there's 4 things. But basically, he's suggesting 80-20 your work. And, you can do this after this call. You can just literally do this, or you can do it right now, multitasking. What are the 10 things you spend the most time on? circle just 2 that drive your results. Do more of these. Look at the others. Eliminate ruthlessly. Automate. Outsource what you can. Press pause on the rest. Repeat. Very interesting. Easy exercise and potentially enlightening. We always think we're doing things like this, but maybe we're not. Maybe we're not. Maybe we're too busy to actually do what is being suggested here. Ironically, and then I was just sort of thinking, well, that can be applied to communication. And then I came across this other article. The folks at Edge shared this with me. Great article in Forbes. The links in this presentation about rising out of hard times, and there are 15 points on this. We're not going to go through all these. I just highlighted 4 or 5 rather. And the first one actually is just what James Clear just told us: do better, not more. So what do we start? What do we stop? What do we continue? It's auditing. It's like cleaning out your closet. You know, what do you wear? What do you keep? What do you want to give away? What do you want to actually, it's not even worth giving away, you throw away. So, I mean, this is sorting, but we can sort what we do from a communication standpoint. Also, communicating through the clutter. That's the H in the hips. So telling the truth, and that makes a difference. Investing in outreach. So if you have some extra time, or even if you don't make time to work on content right now, social media, PR, etc., or go to your current customers and start getting the ball rolling on referrals. The idea of empathy and unifying a group. Sometimes we forget about internal communications and how important that is, and just making sure that your own team feels good about what's going on. We know we need to communicate with customers or constituents and so forth, but we can't forget about our own team and making sure that we do the right thing there. And then the last that I'm going to highlight is create a community. I love this one because it's another exercise we can go through, you know, very methodically and just think. So who are our most loyal followers? Is there anything that we can do to bring them together and to make them feel more engaged during this time, instead of just sort of letting everybody be an island? And one thing that came to mind that I noticed was at Cleveland Playhouse, where I was on the board for many, many years. They are engaging their community. They cannot actually have people come into the theater anymore, but they can connect in other ways. And this is a screen grab from a video of Managing Director Kevin Moore talking about this community. And it even says, staying connected and building community with each of you. So I thought, wow, what a prime example of what this Forbes article was actually talking about. So I know that Kevin is on the line, and I just wanted to know, Kevin, if you wanted to unmute, did you want to say anything, add some color to, you know, this community building idea?
Well, sure. You did not warn me that I would be staring at my own face here, so.
I didn't. Sorry.
You will pay for that one eventually. No, we've done several of these videos. Usually the artistic director, actually Laura Kepley, does them, trying to connect our work with the community. We've been around for 105 years, and our mantra the whole time has been, do theater to make a better community. And right now, when we can't gather, which is fundamental to theater, whether it be a rehearsal hall or a classroom or a live theater experience, all we can really do is use these online mediums to just talk to people and try to be as authentic as possible. And again, we just actually, this particular video, we just adopted a tagline 4 months ago called Passion and Purpose in Every Performance. And right now we're leaning hard into the passion and purpose in talking to our constituents.
Yeah, that's great, Kevin. Thank you for that. Sorry about not warning that your face is up. Although if you're on video, your face is there too. So You look presentable, great background. But this community building is important, and I think a lot of us probably have some examples of that as well. So what about, I've got a couple things in the next slides, are just questions that have come up, which is why I've included these. So I get a question all the time: should we actually be doing customer service work right now, or customer research, or anything like that? And it's a very interesting question. So it brought up sort of a question back, which is, does our communication have to be only one direction at this time? Should we be also listening to our customers? And I think the answer is yes. I actually teach voice of customer research. So I teach companies how to actually conduct, sometimes mostly in-person interviews, but now they've gone to video interviews. So I call it video voice of customer, or VVOC. And if there's skeptics out there about why we should do that right now, I came up with a few reasons why I think it's a great time to do it. One is that people are home. We know where to find them. You can't escape us. Actually, they're at home, and they kind of want to talk. They may have a little extra time. Obviously, there's healthcare workers, there's people who are slammed because of certain things that they're doing in their job, and we know they don't have time. But there's a lot of people that actually do, and they want to break their day up. And what about a call that is from you, or outreach that says, hey, we just want to check in, see how things are going? They might appreciate that outreach. And there's just one very, very important caveat, is that to say, hey, this is not selling. This is about just us checking in, see how we're doing, and we'll use this time productively to think, if we have products or services, we could ask them some open-ended questions about, are they fulfilling your needs right now? We're thinking ahead for innovation using this time well. When we come out of this, we want to hit the ground running. What can we do now to start thinking about how to improve? I think I had a couple other slides in here that would have taken more time to go through, that just said, about what these kind of interviews could look like, and I'd be happy to talk to anybody about that and share that. The other question I get is about selling. So, okay, I understand giving information about logistics and where our supply chain is, and all these other things, but we can't sell right now, can we? We can't really actually go out to real prospects and try and, convert and close. And I say we can. But I think that the 2 points that are going to be at the top here are the most important. It has to be an authentic offer to help. I mean, if you look at what selling is, what we do for a living, we all exchange something that of value for either trade or for money in many cases. And so someone won't give us that money unless they believe what we're giving them in exchange has value. With the exception of a very, very few, we're not tricking people into buying something that they don't need, and especially the people that are on this call. So if we offer people, if we're informing people about what we provide and they agree or they might benefit from it, I think that's a good thing. Do you believe that what you're doing adds value? If you do, there's no reason to not share that with others. Now, we have to be more sensitive in these times about the language that we use to sell, and we maybe don't want to be quite as aggressive. We want to not use scare tactics. We don't want to say, will you be, about cyber attacks or about, whatever it might be. We don't want, people are scared enough already. And we don't want to really come across as ambulance chasing. And we'll get into that again in a minute, but that might have to do with a little bit how you're coming across, the number of communications that you provide or send out. And then one other question. This one's really interesting because it came up after several weeks. Empathy overload. Do we have it? In other words, are you just getting message after message after message that say, oh, we hope you're fine. We hope your family's safe and healthy, et cetera, et cetera. We're thinking of you, you know. And I had a whole bunch of people say, hey, I'm tired of getting those and I'm tired of sending them. I'm just going to not say that anymore because I think that if I say it, they're going to interpret that as, you know, overkill. Well, I wrote an article about this because I really was thinking a lot about it. It's called Why We Need Compassionate Marketing Now and Always. The point is of that article, and what I'm going to say here in a second is I think it's okay to show empathy right now. But I think that we need to do it in the right spirit. It's a little bit like the selling thing we just talked about. If you believe it, I think it's fine. So compassionate marketing to me is about being real and authentic. So my advice is, if you still mean it, say it. It honestly doesn't get old. If you don't mean it and you're faking it, or you think it really feels cliche, just leave it out. I don't think it's the end of the world. So you have to use your own judgment on that. Getting to the last couple slides here before we unshare and talk. I have used the 5 words that I'm going to show you in a second for 20, 25 years. And I really think that this sums up everything that we do, which is marketing. We're in business to exchange things like we just said. And if we understand customers' needs better, we provide better products and services, et cetera. But we also have to think about our own image as a company, and I also do personal branding work as well, like for literally individuals. Everything you say, everything that comes out of your mouth, what you wear, the notes that you write, all that adds up to who you are and how you're perceived. And as much as we don't like to say people don't judge a book by its cover, they actually do. So it pays to think carefully about our image, and that goes for us as a company too. But everything we do really is marketing. So the invoices that go out the door, how do those come across to people in these times? The way somebody answers the phone, if their phone's still operating. It's all these things. And as we start up back in business, that's going to become even more important because we're going to be doing things a little bit differently, probably. So just think about that and be cognizant, I guess, of how we're coming across and how we're perceived. I just bought a pair of glasses, these glasses. It was very timely because mine broke and then I wasn't able to go in to any store during lockdown, and got to experience doing this completely through online. But what really impressed me was, you've seen companies that sort of have a brand voice, and Warby Parker, I mean, really, really interesting the way they speak directly to a person. I just took a photo of this because I thought it was so interesting. This is the cloth that comes with your glasses to wipe your glasses off. But they wrote on the cloth is not just a blank cloth, that even with their logo, it has their origin story, which in branding is a very, very important thing. And it just solidifies, kind of who they are, not to mention the fact that you purchase a pair and they give a pair to somebody in need. So I guess a question that I would have for you is, where can you place a branding message where you don't have one now? Simple question, just think about it. There might be something. Can you make your brand voice more conversational and friendly during these times? Can you take yourself out of this corporate generic mode? Even if you're a small company, some of these companies or nonprofits still can come across as feeling sort of cold. Speaking of which, we're in the home stretch now. United Airlines, especially since Continental obviously has not been known as being the friendly skies, which was its original, sort of mantra. I worked at Leo Burnett in Chicago, and they were the longtime ad agency and came up with the friendly skies. But they haven't been so friendly lately. You all, some of you might have gotten this email, and I'll be interested to see if any of you did or what you think of it. But this came last week, and it just talked about the changes that they're making because of social distancing and making sure that everything is clean and so forth. Now, it came with no photo of the person who was sending it. They have a nice logo now called United Together, which they might have been using for years, but haven't particularly seen before. But in the copy, we're supposed to know what that means. We will emerge more united together than ever before, it says. It came from, in the heading, the subject line, it said, a note from our Chief Customer Officer. Okay. Good that they have one. Title, does it feel warm and fuzzy? Not so much. There was a video, and it's a really long, like 2 or 3 minute clip of all the news coverage they've gotten of all the great things that they're doing about giving back. And it's like, it's great that they're giving back, but it's also kind of like, look at us, we're great, we're giving back. And then there was a link to a corporate coronavirus update page, which is very, very legal wrote it. Legal wrote it and designed it. Now, I also got this the same day from Southwest. Here's a picture of a smiling person who is the CEO. And what did they have in their email? They had this photo. This is from Gary. It's actually signed from Gary and our 60,000 employees. The video isn't about any of the things that Southwest has done for the community, even though they've done them. It's about, it's using the hips. So it's already, you got the personal, there's honest, but this is information in this video about their new policies and exactly how they're going to work and what a customer should expect. And it's delivered by a series of people who are the heads of different departments at Southwest. And then the link is a page to do about all the things they're doing to keep you safe. So, I mean, what an interesting contrast. I had to put this one. This is one of the things I just added to the presentation. Okay, last slide. Common questions. I'll touch on these very, very quickly. I keep hearing, how often should I send things? I would send, if you're sending things out, you can send them more often now, but if you send them too often and you didn't send anything before, people can get suspicious and they're like, well, this is the ambulance chase, where ambulance chasing can come in. Should I offer special deals now? Going back to the sales, should I even sell? I think when special deals are related to giving people accessibility to things that would be helpful to them, they are seen that way. So it's like an authentic offer. When it's seen as you're trying to maximize your ability to like get that business now because it's, people, you might be able to take advantage of people in a certain situation, that does not come across well, obviously. But I wouldn't avoid special deals. Generic e-blasts. So you all might have gotten some that you feel, wow, this is really strange because it doesn't really even acknowledge the current situation. And it's probably because it was part of an automated campaign and they haven't bothered to update it. So, I mean, I would be very careful about those and look back and just make sure that if you are sending e-blasts, that they don't come across as being something that was created a couple months ago, but, you know, create them now. This is a very moving target we have right now. A couple conversation starters, and then I'm going to unshare. These are some things to think about, and we've had some good conversations over the past few weeks about what, from a communications standpoint, what have people stopped doing that they did before? Or what have they started doing that they had never done before? That's a really interesting one. And then people, you know, kind of admitting, once I'm doing this now, I think I might keep doing this even after. So, you know, sort of the silver lining, we didn't want to have to go through this, but now that I've sort of forced myself into this, we're finding that actually we're getting some good interaction or traction or something like that.